everyone, it's cSapphire, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a skirt on Roblox. So first, just make sure you're starting off with the advanced template, make a layer above your advanced template, then go ahead and select a color that's completely different from the color of the skirt you're making. So here I'm going to be making a black skirt, so I'm doing a red outline. And just go ahead and get a reference from Google or any website that you like. I'm using this skirt as a reference just because it looks like a lot of the schoolgirl skirts on Roblox. And here I'm just going to be showing you how I'm going to be actually shading the skirt. So basically there's going to be shading and then there's going to be lightness just to establish depth in the skirt. And I think doing a skirt like that makes it look a lot more realistic and adds a lot more to the outfit than just doing a plain skirt that has no pleats or anything in it. So just go ahead and select your line tool, and here I'm just showing you that you don't want to make your skirt too high. You want to make sure that it's below the middle marker of your advanced template, so basically those two boxes on the right side basically split the template in half. So here I'm just making the line a quarter way down, and you want to make sure that it's curved. You never want to do a straight skirt band just because it's not going to look very good. And now I'm just copying and pasting that a little bit under just to make the actual skirt band. And just go ahead and work on the sides and the back. Alright, so now we're gonna start with the pleats. One thing I like to do when making pleats, you don't want to make it too short, but you also don't want to make it too long, because then it'll look way too high-waisted and it'll just look funny on your Roblox character. So when doing pleats, you also want to make sure that it's slanted, and when you start the line, you want to make sure that the higher up it is, the more right it goes. And then as it goes down, it's gonna go towards the left side, and then it'll be the opposite on if you're starting it on the right side. So as you can see here, I kind of redo it a little bit. It's gonna take some playing around to do, but you just want to make sure that the lines are slanted, sometimes curved. You never want it to be completely straight, because that's not how skirts are in real life. And you want to make sure that the lines on the bottom are curved as well. And then now we're just gonna go ahead and create the rest of the outline. So we have the pleat, and then we're making the shadowed part, which is significantly smaller than the pleat outline. So here I'm also messing around with it. You want to make sure that the shadowed part isn't going to be too thick, so right here I'm just playing around with it. And then I ended up not liking how it was looking right here. So right here I'm just copying that line and I'm pasting it to make the shadowed part, and as you can see, it's looking too thick, and then the pleat is also too thin in comparison to the one I just made. So now I'm just selecting that, and I'm just going to move it a little bit more to the right. And as you can see, the shadowed part is a lot smaller. And just go ahead and copy and paste the initial outline and just paste it over. That way you don't have to creating a new pleat every time. Just make sure that you clean it up with lines and stuff, make sure that it's not looking messy. Just copy and paste that over, and then when you're copying and pasting it to the side, you're only going to select a half of one leg. So like I said, copy half of one leg and then just paste it over. And then we're just going to select the front of the torso and paste it to the back because it's the exact same thing in the back. So now I'm just cleaning up the edges a little bit. I noticed they were a little bit too sharp. So I just took my brush tool and made them a little bit softer, you know, just little details that we're fixing up. So now we're going to go ahead and start with the band wrinkles. So just take your line tool and make a line. Then you're going to take your eraser tool and set the opacity around 50 or 60 and start erasing the edges just to make it look softer. And you're also going to do that in the middle too. Just erase the edges just to make it look softer and not as harsh. So now just go ahead, and as you can see, there is some shadows in the middle of the skirt. So we're going to try to replicate that with more lines with soft edges. So take your line tool and just start making lines where you think they'll look right, or whatever your reference looks like, you want to go off that. Just go ahead and take your eraser tool and erase those edges as well. Alright, now that we're done with the outline, you're going to go ahead and make a layer below your outline layer. And since I'm making a black skirt, I'm going to be using a dark gray color as my base. You'd never want to use a black color if you're going to be doing a black shirt, or else it'll just be way too hard to shade and create depth. So I'm just going ahead and coloring under our outline layer. Just clean it up a little bit. So take your magic wand tool and just select the base. That way you don't go out of the lines or anything. And take your brush tool and put the width around 5 or 4 and lower the opacity. And also make sure it's a darker color than your base. And for this, I'm drawing directly on the base layer. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that because you think you might make a mistake, you can go ahead and make a layer above your base layer. But when I'm making the initial shadows, I just like to put it on the base layer. That way I know it's permanent and it's not something I'm going to be blurring, so that's why I also made sure that the opacity on the brush was pretty low. And I'm just putting the shadows in the pleated areas and also putting shadows on the bottom just to create some depth. Go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm making my brush bigger, and I also lowered the opacity, but I kept the same color. And I'm just adding some slight shadows. As you can see, it's not that dark, but it still makes a little bit of a difference. So that's what I'm doing. And I made it a tiny bit darker, and then I used the Gaussian blur around 4 or 5. And as you can see, we're making some progress. Now go ahead and make a new layer, select the black color and lower the opacity of your brush once again, and just start putting that color in between the pleats again. And then I also like to put shadows on the edges of the skirt band. And then I'm taking my brush on 3 and I'm just making a slight outline of shadows on the actual pleats. And now I'm just taking my brush on around 12, and with one stroke I'm putting some more darkness towards the top, and then I just use a Gaussian blur. And now take your line art, you're going to select the black and white option, and then you're going to lower the brightness. Now I don't like to make it completely black, I like to do a very dark gray, just so it doesn't look super cartoony. And now you're going to put a new layer below your outline layer, and with a white outline on just one width, you're going to start outlining the pleats of the skirt. Make sure you don't outline the actual shadows, because we want to make sure that we differentiate what's supposed to be coming out front and what's supposed to be staying in the back as a shadow. So just follow what I'm doing. This is completely optional, but I just think doing this really makes my skirt pop a lot more and it doesn't look as dull. And once you have it all outlined, you're just going to take the white outline layer, and you can do overlay if you want, but I prefer just lowering the opacity down to around 55 of the layer, just because sometimes overlay can make it too dull, and we want to make sure that the white outline is actually noticeable, that way it can make a difference. So now you just want to take your black brush tool. You don't need to lower the opacity of the brush for this one. And just go ahead and fill in the shadowed areas more, and lower the opacity of that to around 120. And just make sure you fix any little blemishes you notice. And now we are done with the skirt. So now I'm just going to put a skin tone under it so you can see how it looks. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what other tutorials you want to see next.